Hey everybody, it's Dr. Joe and Sweet Remy, and today I'm going to show you general stretches and exercises for the shoulder. And this is the 5th video in my 10-day whole body wellness challenge. If you want to find out more about it and join in, stick around to the end. So let's get started. Disclaimer alert, disclaimer alert. So for this shoulder routine, you don't really need any extra equipment for it. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything started with the warm-up, and I'll tell you a little bit more as we go. So let's just start off with some shoulder circles to get the shoulders warmed up a little bit. So we're going to do a 2-minute warm-up. I'm kind of alternating my circles back and forth, but you can do for a little bit one way and then switch and do the other one, going back the other way. So with these, we're going to go in 30-second increments. Instead of doing for reps, we're just going to do for time. So you can kind of go at your own pace and then slowly build up as you go. In between each individual exercise, we're going to take a short break, and then in between each group of exercises or stretches, then we'll take a long break. You can also do some arm circles just to kind of, again, we're just getting that warm up right now. We're getting those shoulders moving. We want those muscles to be nice and warm before we do stretches and exercises. So just making sure everything feels good and loose before we get started. With any of these stretches and exercises, this is kind of a general program. So if anything hurts, again, make sure you're not doing it to where it hurts. So if it hurts, stop and check in with your doctor or your physical therapist. These should all feel pretty good. This is the beginner routine, so they might not feel super hard for some people, but if you haven't been doing anything for a long time, they actually might be a little hard and uncomfortable. So now we're just going to do some shoulder squeezes. No real pauses on this one. If you've seen my shoulder squeezes before, I do little, pause and holds. But again, this is just for kind of a warm up to get everything going. So there doesn't really need to be a pause in between with these. And then after you get a couple of these, we'll finish the warm up with some tees, just some shoulder tees kind of going out and then to kind of open up that chest a little bit before we get going. So the first set of exercises we're going to start off with are isometric exercises. So isometric exercises are really just activating the muscles, but not making those big movements that sometimes cause pain. So with the isometric exercises, let's start off with just maybe like a 30 to 40% of how hard we can push, because you don't want to push so hard where you're going into pain. Again, this is just building up those muscles, starting the strengthening. So we're going to start with external rotation first. So the external rotation is this motion, and so I'm just using my other hand to prevent me from making that movement. So I'm pushing in, again, maybe that 30 to 40% for a 3 to 5 second hold, and then relax. So again, this is the motion. Keep that elbow bent and close to your side, and then pushing in, getting that nice little hold, activating those muscles, and then relaxing. So we'll alternate back and forth each side. If you want to do them all on one side, you can, but I'm just going to so I can give a little break in between each one. So again, this is the motion, pushing out into that external rotation. You might feel it up at the shoulder, you might feel it at the elbow a little bit, you might feel it through the forearm. So the 3 to 5 second hold is just to start off with. That still might even be too much for you, that's okay. But try and get at least a little pause and hold with that contraction. So you're not just pushing, stop, pushing, stop, pushing, stop. Try and get that little hold to really engage those muscles and activate those muscles. And if you have already done this once or twice, or you know what to do and you just want to follow along, I'm going to be talking the whole time, so you can put it on mute if you want to and just play some of your favorite music as you go. But I'm trying to make sure that I give you as much information as possible and make sure that I can show you some modifications while we're doing it as well. So with these, if you're just doing it for general wellness and you're maybe not on any kind of precautions, you can move the position a little bit. So I'm going to move here and then push in again, but you're not pushing through with any resistance. I'm moving here, then I'm pushing into my hand, maybe moving here, and then pushing into my hand. So that just kind of changes the position and works the muscles a little bit differently while you're doing it. So maybe the first time you do these, you just want to stay in one spot. which you can, but if you want to, after you do this maybe once or twice, then start putting a little bit of movement in it. But again, I'm stopping and then doing the activating. It's not doing the contraction through the movement, because this is an isometric exercise. And again, make sure that your elbow, even when you go out, stays close to your side the whole time. That's what's going to get that external rotation in the shoulder. So the next one is just going to be the internal rotation for your shoulder for the isometric. So now the motion is going to be coming inwards towards your tummy. Same thing, keep that elbow by your side while you're doing that activation of keeping it in. But again, since it's isometric, you're not moving while you're contracting the muscle. So this time my hand's just going to be on the inside and I'm pushing in this way. Again, just that 3 to 5 second hold, 30 to 40% starting off. It might feel really easy while you do it the first couple times, and you might be like, oh, well, I can push harder. But I would always say start off with just a little bit and see how you feel afterwards, because you might feel fine while you're doing it, but you might be a little sore afterwards. I know it doesn't feel like you're doing a lot, but especially if you're starting a program and you haven't been doing a whole lot of stuff before, since this is the beginner program, you might be a little bit sore afterwards. You might be surprised how much it kind of affects those muscles. So again, this is the motion coming in and then pushing in for that 3 to 5 second hold. These shouldn't be painful while you're doing them, but sometimes with isometric exercises, you might, when you're pushing in or pushing out, feel a little pop in the shoulder. As long as it's not painful, that's okay. It's usually, just sometimes the fluid movement in the joints, or maybe an actual little adjustment. I know people like to argue which is which, but it can happen either. Sometimes it is a little bit of movement of bone rubbing on bone, or the fluid in the joint moving. Whichever it is, as long as it's not painful, it's usually not that big of a deal. So this time I'm going to move a little bit in between each one. So a little push and hold here, relax, maybe move it in a little bit, and then a push and a hold. And again, shouldn't be painful. And with some of these movements, if you have a specific diagnosis, make sure you're talking with your doctor or physical therapist to be cleared, because sometimes with certain things, you shouldn't do specific movements. So just making sure everything's cleared with that. I'm going to do a little bit of movement on this side as well, doing the pushing in and then bringing it in here. So there are some ways, if you want to work the muscles together, both sides, instead of doing them one on each side, you can by using like a belt or a stretch strap where you're kind of pushing out. Pushing in would be a little bit different. You'd be like holding onto your hands and pushing in. But I like to do each one individually, because sometimes one side's going to be stronger than the other, or one's going to be more sore than the other. So you might have to push a different amount of pressure for one versus the other. And sometimes if you're pushing them both at the same time or pulling them both in at the same time, you're going to get the same amount, and you're not going to be able to do a little bit over here and a lot over here. So I like to do them each individually if you have time to do that. The next one's going to be a bicep isometric. So it's coming up this way. You can turn your palm open, and then so that my hand's going to be on top, stopping it from going this way. Or if that's a little uncomfortable, you can have your thumb in an upward position going this way. You can also alternate each way, because that's working those biceps a little bit differently. So if you want to do one this way and then turn and do the other one this way, you can. And again, that 3 to 5 second hold, 30 to 40% of everything you can push. And again, so this is that bicep area we're working here. So maybe sometimes like a bicep tendonitis or a bursitis up there, even a shoulder impingement. These should be pretty helpful for that. And again, if you want to alternate back and forth, you can, or if one is more comfortable than the other, you can switch back and forth, or just keep the one that's the most comfortable if you want, but still keeping that elbow pretty close to your side for this. So you're really just activating that bicep. So you can also do the contract the muscle, relax, and move it a little bit with this one as well. So I'll do that for the next set of these. So just activating here and then letting go, coming up a little bit, and then activating again. And you can see my hand shaking just a little bit because when I'm activating those muscles, they're trying to move, they're trying to go, but since I'm stopping them from going, sometimes you'll get a little shake in there. And that's just the muscles working. That's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. They might or might not shake a little bit. If it shakes a lot, sometimes that's just a sign of weakness and that those muscles need to be worked a little bit more. And then I'll do this way for this one. Exercise 3. So pushing up and then bringing it all the way up. Sometimes with exercises, besides me talking through everything, just doing some nice, deep diaphragmatic breathing while you're doing the exercise, especially when you're doing stretches. That's really good because it helps relax those muscles to sometimes lengthen those muscles a little bit more or get those muscles working a little bit more, especially if they're tight or they feel like they're in a spasm. Sometimes that nice, deep breathing really, really helps. So as you can imagine, the next one is then going to be for the triceps in the back. So this time we're going to be doing a pushing down motion. Still keeping the elbow bent by your side, and now the hand, somebody's texting me, is going to be underneath when you're pushing down into it. So again, just kind of pushing down this way, that 3 to 5 seconds, and then relax. And this time you should feel it in the back of your arm where your tricep muscles are. And same thing, you can do a couple different ways with your hand placement. You can do this way, you can open up your palm and push down, or you can even push down this way as well. I kind of like with my thumb up position because that just opens up that shoulder joint a little bit more. So it's a nice way to kind of make sure that you're not impinging anything in there when you're activating those muscles. So again, hand underneath, this is the motion I'm doing. So just kind of pushing in this way. And the reason for that 30 to 40%, not only is it just kind of your muscles getting used to it, not pushing so hard, but sometimes when you actually activate them a little less, like less than 50%, you're working those smaller muscle groups like the rotator cuff and things like that. If you're pushing really, really, really hard, sometimes you're going to get those deltoids activated as well, which is fine, but a lot of times you want to get those stabilizer muscles, those rotator cuff muscles working, because that's just going to help keep that shoulder stable in there. So same thing with this one, you can start moving it a little bit now. So I'm activating, and then if you want to go down a little bit to change that position and change the length of the muscle just to get that exercise in a slightly different position, you can. If you wanted to stand and do it so you could get your arm a little bit straighter, you could do that as well, just pushing in. And if you're on your couch or your bed or even a chair or something you can just then push it into the chair or the couch if you wanted to. And then so I'm going to turn my palm open for this one as I go down, just so you can kind of see that different movement as well. So again, pushing that 3 to 5 seconds, not as hard as I can, but enough just to feel those muscles activating a little bit. Get some nice deep breathing in there if you want to. So the next couple things are going to be stretches. So with the stretches, we're going to go into holding it for the full 30 seconds. When you're stretching, you really want to hold it for that 30 seconds. So you want to just stretch into a position that's slightly uncomfortable but tolerable. So we're going to do our upper traps now because they have a lot to do with the shoulder. So just sit on the side you want to stretch. Bring your other hand up and over, touching your finger, and just gently pull to the side. So again, holding this for the full 30 seconds. You want to feel it kind of up in here, going all the way down into that shoulder right there. This is a great stretch for the shoulder and the neck area because a lot of these muscles that attach into the shoulder go up into the neck area as well. So these are not only great for your shoulder, but they're great for your neck also. You can do a couple different ways of your hand placement to keep the shoulder down. That's basically what the other side is doing, just to keep the shoulder down to get a better stretch. So I'm going to put my hand behind me now and then bring my hand up and over and just gently pulling that head over to the side, almost like you're trying to take that ear towards the other shoulder, getting that nice stretch. And so with my hand behind my back, I feel a slightly different stretch. So you might want to try both and just see which one feels the best for you, because sometimes maybe you'll hit that spot this way versus the other way. And so if you've got a specific spot or a trigger point that's kind of getting you a little bit, sometimes you might want to play around with that just a little bit to see if you can get the spot. If it's uncomfortable to either sit on your hand or put it behind you, you don't have to do that. You can just kind of bring it down and do this stretch. But again, I'm still feeling the stretch, but it's not quite as much because I'm not getting that shoulder completely holding down. You can kind of push your arm down if you want to do this in standing. That helps keep it down a little bit too. But by keeping that shoulder down, since those muscles are connected to the shoulder and go all the way up into the neck, if you keep that shoulder down, you're going to feel just a little bit better stretch there. And so I feel just a little bit more this way versus the other way. Also with the stretches, this is going to be a great time. I'll go put my hand behind my back for this one to do that deep breathing. So as you come up and over, do a nice deep diaphragmatic breath. And then as you breathe out, a lot of times those muscles will relax and you can get a little bit deeper stretch in there. So you can see as I breathe out, a lot of times I'll get a little bit more lengthening in those muscles because they're able to relax with that diaphragmatic breathing. So the next one is going to be a levator scapulae stretch. That's another one of my favorites because that levator scapulae muscle attaches to the scapula and it elevates it, or levator elevates it. And a lot of times when we're stressed out, we hold that stress like this and those muscles become tight and overworked. So just bring the arm up on the side you want to stretch, turn your head at about a 45-degree angle or looking at the opposite knee and bring your head down to get that stretch, or almost if you're trying to tuck your nose into your armpit. So you should be feeling that stretch here all the way down into that shoulder blade area, where a lot of times there's a trigger point right there where it attaches to the shoulder blade. But you can see it comes all the way up into the neck here. So a lot of times it might be shoulder pain, but it also might be neck pain as well. So this is a great kind of combination stretch for both of those because they work so closely together. If you have a really hard time getting that arm up into this position, again, you can put it behind your back and get that stretch as well. The way I learned was with my elbow up. I like that way, but I'm getting a great stretch this way as well. Even turning your head a little bit just to tuck that nose into the armpit just a little bit more, that's getting that nice deep stretch in there. And doing some nice deep breathing. That was a little more through my chest, but that's fine. Just getting that deep breathing and then just let it out that way. And then, so again, hand placement is going to help keep that shoulder blade down, but if that's uncomfortable, you can just place it at your side and then bring your head over. I'm still getting a great stretch with this, but if I bring it up and push that shoulder blade down to help lengthen out that muscle, I'm going to get just a slighter, better stretch there. But again, you don't have to. You can just place it down. Maybe if you have some shoulder tightness or some shoulder pain, you can do the stretch this way as well. And you can also not even put your hand up over it if that's uncomfortable too. You can just turn and do a stretch this way. But again, if you get that little pull in there, you're going to get that extra little bit of stretch. And if you need to put your hand behind your back instead, that's still a really great stretch in there. Nice deep breathing, and then push just a little bit further in there. So then the next one, we're gonna go into a prayer stretch. You can do this on your couch or your bed or on the floor, whatever's more comfortable. But prayer stretch people think about a lot for the back, but this is actually a great stretch for your shoulders as well. So it can be for your back, it can be for your shoulders, just kind of getting on your knees and then putting your arms out as far as you comfortably can, and then bringing your bottom back towards your heels and getting that stretch. So I'm getting a great stretch through that upper back area right there. And again, this is a full 30-second stretch, just a nice hold. You can relax your head and tuck it in too. You can also, again, if that's a little bit uncomfortable on your shoulders, if they're really tired, or if you feel like it's impinging that shoulder, you can turn your thumbs up as well and stretch. And get that nice deep breathing in there, and as you breathe out, sometimes you can go down a little bit more. So now we're going to stand up and do some exercises for the shoulder. With these, again, I'm just going to do one at a time because sometimes your shoulders aren't the same equal in strength. So I like to do them one at a time. If you're pressed for time and you want to do them both, you can. So we're just going to go into a shoulder flexion right now. So I'm just bringing my arm up to about 90 degrees and then nice and slow back down. So as you can see, I have my thumb pointed upwards in that upwards position. Again, that just opens up that shoulder joint so it's not quite impinging it. When you don't have any weight or resistance, it's not quite as much of a big deal. But if you've got a little bit something going on in your shoulder, you might be able to tell a difference if you come up with your palm up or if you come up with your arm in a different position. So it's a nice way to open up that shoulder with the thumb up. And so I'm just going to alternate again to give each side a little break. Coming up this way and then nice and slow back down. So the shoulder flexion just straight out in front of you. I like to stop at 90 degrees, especially in the beginning for the beginner exercises, because once you start going higher, that changes the muscles you're working, number one, and two, sometimes that's more uncomfortable because there's a different recruitment of muscles. So I like when you're just starting off just to go that 90 degrees. Some people might say differently, but that's how I like it. That's what works for me. So again, just kind of going to that 90. If you go a little bit higher, that's okay. And if you go a little bit less, that's okay too. So even if you're just comfortable coming to right here when you're first starting off, that's okay. Your shoulders might be really tight, but maybe each time just slowly trying to get it a little higher. I'm very much controlling this. You can see I'm not just swinging my arm up and down because that's just using momentum. That's not really activating those muscles at all. The key is to control. You can go fast and controlled. I'm still controlling it. I'm going faster, but when I slow it down, I'm really activating those muscles. So start off slow, make sure you're doing it right, make sure you're doing it correctly. And then if you're like, okay, I got it down, I understand what I'm doing now, then you can pick up the speed a little bit if you want to. So you can then go a little bit faster, but see, I'm still controlling it even though I'm going faster. But this might tire you out. Again, if you haven't done a whole lot of stuff, you might have to kind of reset, get those shoulders set again. Try not to hike up that shoulder when you're bringing it up. If you're doing this, then I'd rather you just bring it to here, because this is compensating and taking away from working the muscles that you want to work. So then the next one is going to be shoulder abduction, which is going out to the side, almost like a jumping jack motion. Again, I like to turn my thumb up. Some people might tell you a little bit differently, maybe doing it this way. You can try either way and see what's more comfortable. But again, when I go thumbs up, I feel like it's more comfortable for me. And again, I'm just going to do one at a time, but if you're pressed for time and you want to do them both at the same time, you can. But when you're really trying to focus on working those muscles correctly, doing the proper technique, doing one at a time I think is really important. And then once you master that, then you want to do them both at the same time, you can. But again, with this going out into abduction, sometimes this is more painful for people. It's a little harder to do, especially if you have that tightness or irritation in there. So maybe don't go up to 90 first. I wasn't going up to 90 with that one, and see how you feel, because you don't, again, want to use your shoulder to hike up your arm. This isn't actually bringing my arm up anywhere. This is just lifting my shoulder. So make sure you're keeping that shoulder down, especially if you try and get to that 90-degree position, because going out in this abduction away from your body, sometimes that's a little uncomfortable, especially if you have some arthritis or something like that. I said that weird, arthritis. But again, just keeping it at the 90 degrees right now. Don't necessarily feel like you have to go all the way up. Eventually you can, but in the beginning, just sticking to that 90 degrees is really going to help you get that proper technique down and make sure you're activating those muscles instead of really just trying to swing them up there where, you know, maybe one side is doing it correctly and the other side's not. So it gives you that opportunity to really focus on bringing that arm nice and slow up and down. Again, I like to kind of watch my arm. You can see I'm looking over towards it just to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. But that's, again, my preference. Some people might want you looking straight forward so you keep that nice straight posture while you're doing it. But I really like looking, because sometimes you can't tell where your arm is, you know, especially if you have an injury or something. You might think you're all the way up to 90 and you're only right there. So really watching it, making sure you're kind of sending those brain signals to activate those muscles. Sometimes you have to tell them what to do. You know, they forget sometimes, especially after an injury or a surgery. So, you know, really kind of watching it, seeing what it's doing, and getting it up to that 90. But again, if you feel like you're having to hike and lean to get it to that 90, see, I'm actually not at 90, I'm still right there. So I'd rather you do it correctly and only go to there instead of trying to hike it all the way up. So next we're going to go into scaption. So scaption is kind of in between. It's not all the way out in the front. It's not all the way out to the side. It's kind of a 45-degree angle. It's following the scapular plane, or that shoulder blade. So that's kind of in the middle there. So that's why it's called scaption. So kind of this way, again, thumb up. I'm not all the way out to the side. I'm not all the way out in front of me. I'm at that 90-degree, or excuse me, that 45-degree angle, not the 90-degree angle, following that scapular plane. Now, for a lot of people, this is usually the more comfortable one. This actually feels a little bit better. It feels better than abduction usually, but sometimes even a little bit better than flexion. So again, just come into about that 90 degrees and then nice and slow back down. I feel like usually a lot of people can get to 90 degrees easier with scaption versus flexion or abduction without trying to compensate. So again, that thumb up, just that 45-degree angle, you know, watch it going up and down, making sure you're keeping that shoulder down, activating those muscles. Sometimes you have to tell them what to do, and go nice and slow. And then after, again, if you feel like, okay, I've got that technique down, I feel like I'm doing proper form, I'm not compensating anymore, then maybe you could go a little bit faster if you wanted to. So for this one, you know, maybe I'm going a little bit more for speed, which is going to be more for endurance work of my muscles, and I might actually get my heart rate going a little bit more as well. And again, this is kind of the same thing, that once you feel like you've mastered everything, and if you're pressed for time and you feel like they're kind of working equally, you could do both if you wanted to. But again, even if you feel like you have to stop and reset each time in the beginning, that's fine. This is the kind of the beginner course, getting those muscles working, getting everything activating, making sure you're doing everything correctly before you take that next step or progress in the phase of working the muscles harder. You want to make sure you're working them correctly before you start working them harder, because that's what I always tell people. It's about the quality of the movement, not about the quantity of the movement. If I'm doing something and I'm trying to get as many as I can and I'm not actually doing it correctly, then sometimes you're actually doing more damage than good. So I'd rather you make sure you're doing it correctly, good form, instead of just trying to get a whole bunch in. So there you have it. Those are my general stretches and exercises for the shoulder. So this was the 5th video in my 10-day whole body wellness challenge. If you've missed some of the other ones, make sure and check out the playlist link up there. And if you are interested in finding out more about the challenge and joining in, click in the description and the link below. And don't forget to come back tomorrow. So remember, be safe, have fun, and I hope you feel better soon.